Hey, this is Dan here at Studio Blue. This is Pilates All Levels. Only props needed today, a mini band if you have it, a mini ball, you could use a pillow, you could use a long TheraBand. Also, all this can be done without any kind of props whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. If anything doesn't feel good in your body, especially negative pain, bad pain, joints, back, neck, don't push through that. All that said, we're just gonna mobilize the spine real quick so your props can come off to the side and we'll come onto the hands and knees. Just somewhere on your mat. Fingers spread, knees under the hips. And just start to take a couple of breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe in, really start to allow your ribs to expand and your belly to expand towards the floor. And as you exhale, feel your waistline lift and your rib line gently draw it inward. Let's do a couple like that. Inhale, let the stomach relax towards the ground. Pretty minimal movement to the spine. And then exhale, feel your waistline lifting away from your t-shirt. Last one like that, inhaling through the nose. And this time as you exhale, lift the waistline, start to round your spine, curl the tail, let the chin drop, widen the shoulder blades. And then as you inhale, open the chest, tailbone lifts, heart drops down and pulls forward. And there's still a sense of the waistline lifting up and in, even though it's on length. Just a couple like this at your own time, your own pace. So rounding, curling the tail, relax the glutes, the jaw, the head, and opening. Good. And just start to notice, right, is there any places in your back that feel maybe particularly tight? Let's see if you can breathe into those spaces or try to move through them. And feel that it's not only your spine and your pelvis moving, but also your the next time you finish your extension or your cow, find your center. So we'll call it tabletop. And then look to the right, wag your tail to the right. Just a pretty small side bend. You can kind of look past your shoulder and then come through center and then wag to the left and look to the left. Again, your time, your pace. And you might find that being just a little bit rounded in your middle back feels kind of good, especially if you tend to be a little tight in those middle back extensors. Or if you tend to be a little bit more rounded, you might find that being in a little bit of extension feels particularly good. So just kind of play around with where you're at on this. Yeah. Allow one shoulder to lift, one shoulder will naturally drop a little bit. And next time you finish that left side, feet together, knees open, come into child's pose or resting pose, and just see how this feels. Head can be heavy. You can have your hands under the head or a ball or a pillow. And just take a couple breaths, again, into the stomach. And then as you exhale, feel your waistline lift. On your next inhale, try not to breathe as much into your belly, but breathe more into the side and back of your rib cage. So coming more into that classic Pilates breath. As you exhale, feel the waistline lift up a little bit more away from your thighs. And just one more, inhale into the side and back of the ribs. It'll typically feel a little bit shallower. And then exhale, roll yourself up, make your way onto your back. Have your props pretty close by, both the ball and the band if you're using them today. And make your way all the way down. So knees bent, feet about hip distance to start, arms relaxed by your side. And as you exhale, allow your back to flatten. Slowly roll the hips to the sky, one vertebra at a time. Feel the knees stretching forward, the feet not only pushing down, but pulling towards your shoulders. Hips opening at the top. And on your next breath out, just slowly start to roll it down. And this might not be your highest bridge of the hour, right? So just kind of feeling it out, feel how your spine feels, how your hips feel, and just moving at your own time now, curling, rolling. Once you get past that halfway mark of your bridge, start to feel the back of the glutes kicking on, back of the hamstrings, And keeping some weight even into the arms, so the back of your shoulders and shoulder blades are starting to activate a little bit. Keep breathing, last one. Curling, rolling up. Notice where the weight is on your feet. So heels, first fall of the foot, last fall of the foot. Once you're at the top, let's pause here. And the knees are going to stay where they're at. So they're over the ankles. And as we inhale, we're going to drop the right hip towards the floor, say about halfway or so. So there's a good amount of rotation in the pelvis. And then exhale, press into both feet, lift that hip back up. So you feel that you're connecting back into your glutes. And then inhale, left hip rotates and drops to the floor. And then exhale to lift back up. So as you do this, notice, right, if there's this big sway that happens, and make sure that it's more of a rotation rather than like a sway of the hips over to one side. And this doesn't have to be a really big motion. Think of the pelvis staying relatively neutral, so you're not really arched in your back, you're not really flat. You're just allowing the pelvis to roll around the thigh bones and getting some motion into the spine. If this feels particularly tight, just take the feet a little bit wider. Good. And just take about one more to your left. Once you feel even, roll down 1 or 2 inches, right? Just 1 or 2 inches and pause. Scoop the tailbone under a little bit more. See if you can find some length right around the base of your ribs, and then lower down 1 or 2 more inches. And again, take a huge breath into the back line of the ribs. And as you exhale, exhale through your mouth, kind of like a heavy sigh, and see if you find a little bit more release through the back. And just keep doing that until you eventually come all the way down to neutral. And there's no rush, right? Nice. Once you make it to the ground, right, check your feet. They're going to be about 2 fist distance or 2 hand distance apart. Curl the tail, roll back up into your bridge. So knees, hips, shoulders, one nice long line. Make sure there's a little bit of weight in the heels, back of the glutes are on, front of the ribs are heavy. And then if you want more work on this, you can take your hands across your shoulders so your arms aren't really giving you too much support. So it's really going to put more work into the glutes and the hamstrings. Right? Keep some weight in your left foot. And as you exhale, maybe the right heel or maybe that whole right leg floats tabletop. And again, if your hands are across your shoulders, this is going to be a little bit harder. That right leg comes down, put some weight into it. Right? Preset glutes, abdominals, obliques, opposite leg floats up. Right? And again, just keep alternating from side to side. Good. If you feel when one leg lifts that this kind of just goes right into the lower back, check that your hips aren't too high and that your back isn't too arched. You can always drop down just a little bit and really feel the base of the ribs kind of gliding down. Good. And if you need a little bit more support today, you just bring those arms back onto the ground, right? And the next time your left leg comes up and down, let that be your last side. Or actually, next time your right leg goes up and down, let that be your last side. Make sure you're even. Feel both feet heavy. Take your arms to the sky with your feet on the ground. And as you exhale, start to roll down and take your arms overhead. Palms can face each other as you're rolling down. So start to stretch open through the front of the chest and underneath the armpit. Pelvis to neutral. Hands together behind the head, elbows in your peripheral vision. So they're pointing up a little bit to the sky. Nod the chin, curl the chest up. So initially, just hold on this first chest lift. So my tailbone's on the ground, my pelvis is pretty neutral, lower tummy's in, and maybe I'm off my shoulder blades, maybe I'm not quite there yet, but the goal eventually, right, we want to try to come off those shoulders. Now hold here, take a huge breath into the back of the ribs. And then exhale, feel, watch your lower abs drawn a little bit away from your t-shirt. And just try one more like that. Inhale, breathe wide into the back of the ribs. And then big exhale, pelvic floor, low tummy. On your next breath in, lower the chest and head halfway down. And then allow your exhale to curl you up, folding into the breastbone. Inhale, coming back. About halfway or so today. Exhale, curling up, thinking of the head just coming along for the ride. Inhale back, exhale, curl. Good. Yeah. So really using your breath to create this movement. For Elizabeth, keep the feet just a little wider. Yeah, it should just help soften the hips a little bit. Yeah, here you go. Nice. Good. And if you generally, in these chest lifts, if you feel a lot of grippiness in your hips, check that your feet aren't too close to your body. If you generally feel like your back is kind of arched or your lower back just feels really tense, check that your feet aren't too far away from your body. Right? Next time that you lift back up, pause at the top. Keep the glutes really, really relaxed, the head heavy. Exhale, scoop the tailbone, feel your lower abs drawing in like they're trying to meet your middle abs and your belly button. And then inhale, let the pelvis come back to neutral. So on your exhale, we'll imprint the lower spine. And then inhale, release to neutral. And your lower back might completely touch the floor. It might not. It really is just dependent on the curves of your body. But as you create that little bit of curl, feel that ribs are dropping, pelvis is curling, and hopefully you're feeling those lower abs a little bit more, and at the base of the ribs a little bit more. And just keep checking that your head is nice and supported from your hands, right? Your neck doesn't really have to do too much work here. Next time that you find neutral, let the chest and head lower halfway. And this time as you exhale, curl up and over to the right, stretching your left arm past your right knee. And then as you inhale, hand to the head, lower halfway down. Exhale, up and over to the left, right hand stretches past left knee. And just keep going like this, inhaling down. And as you curl, see if there's a way in your twist can both shoulder blades stay off the ground. So your twist might become a little smaller, but just notice if the sensation in your abs, especially kind of at the base of your ribs and pretty deep into the ribs, if it feels more intense, right? Try to keep the shoulders just gently rolling out of the ears. Yep. One more up and over to your left. And then back to center, elbows fairly wide, right? They're not so wide you can't see them, but they're in your peripheral. As you exhale, up and over to the right again, head supported. Inhale halfway down, and then exhale, up and over to the left. And really kind of imagine it's your upper rib crossing down to your opposite hip, right? Now, if you want to start to add on to this, the next time that you twist to the right, right leg floats tabletop, right? We're twisting towards it. Lower the foot, lower the head halfway. Left leg tabletop, twisting towards it. Inhaling down. Exhaling up, right? And fairly neutral in this. If it feels a little nicer to have just a slight imprint, that's fine. Whatever foot is still on the ground, feel that foot rooting down a little bit. Good. One more up and over to your left. And lower the chest and the head to the floor. Good. Relax your arms by your side. And then allow your lower back to imprint. One leg at a time, floats tabletop. If you have a ball or a block or anything like that, you can place them between your knees. Otherwise, just knees together. Arms will open to a T. Palms face up, and the back of the shoulders are pretty heavy. Ribs definitely heavy, lower back heavy. As you inhale, let the legs start to drift to your left, about 45 degrees away from the midline of your body. Keep the right shoulder and shoulder blade heavy. And then as you exhale, use your obliques, right? You're still using your abs to bring you back. And then inhale, legs to the right. Try to keep the knees together, light squeeze on your prop. And then exhale, rib cage, pelvis, and then hips to center. So keep going with this. Yeah. And just check in, right? It doesn't have to be a huge motion. You're still working your obliques, but now instead of the pelvis being stable and moving the rib cage is pretty stable and we're moving the pelvis, right? Now, if you want to make this a little more challenging, you might bring your arms to a goalpost, right? So you don't have as much support from your arms. Or, right, the motion will be smaller, but you might take your arms to the sky. Still keeping, right, if my legs go to the left, my right shoulder is still heavy, right? The motion, it's not quite as big. Controlling this all from the core line. You might notice it's a little bit more challenging on one side than the other. Yep. Now, as you pull back to center, you can think of that outside leg squeezing in a little bit. So you do get those inner thighs on here as well. And then just finish off to the right. Once you do, grab the back of your thighs, lift your head and chest. Yeah, and just relax the shoulders. Maybe just take a little bit of a wiggle into your upper back. Feel those middle and upper back extensors relax a bit. Take a huge breath in through your nose. Exhale, hands slowly come back around to your head. Nice, elbows in your peripheral, stay right there. And on your next breath out, squeeze your ball. Inhale, breathe wide. Exhale, squeeze. And kind of feel, watch your stomach draw down slightly. And again, exhale, squeeze. So pelvic floor, low abs, obliques, inner thighs, all the things are working. Good, last one like this. And then grab the thighs. And if you sunk down a bit, just kind of wiggle yourself back up, right? Just to touch off the shoulders and shoulder blades. Again, find a really deep breath in through your nose. Exhale, hands behind the head. If you find, right, you need more support, you might take your arms forward to keep you off your shoulders. Now, on your next breath out, think of that same kind of curl we did in our bridge. The pelvis scoops slightly, and then we lower the hips back down. And I want you to think it's not as much coming from the hip joint, it's coming from that little bit of an imprint from the lower spine. Now, can this be done with the feet still on the ground? 100%, right? So we've just up-leveled it slightly, thinking little imprint, low abs meeting upper abs. And there isn't like a big thrusting motion or anything like that. Last two, elbows still lifting high. And then lower the chest, hug the knees into the body. Take your prop off to the side if you had it, and then just allow the hips to roll a little bit from side to side. And settle the feet to the ground, 1 foot at a time. All right. So feet about inner hip distance apart, we'll curl the tail and roll up into our bridge. Palms down or palms up. Either way, A-okay. Feel some weight through the feet. Sense of openness to the front of the hips. Keep some weight in that left leg. Exhale, float right heel or right leg tabletop. And on your next breath out, right, if you're keeping the toes on the ground, just set the heel down or reach this right leg forward 45 degrees. So the knees are about the same height. Inhale, bend it back in. So staying on this side, exhale, right leg straightens forward, waistline draws in. Inhale, bend in. So kind of like single leg stretch or, you know, a variation of shoulder bridge. But you want to feel left glutes and right waistline working to stabilize you here. And as that leg is reaching away, feel your stomach line drawing in a bit. Rib cage is staying heavy. Yep. Last three. Right. Star of the show, though, is definitely those left glutes. Last two. Nice. And last one. Next time you bend in, set that foot down. Keep the hips lifted. Take a full breath in through the nose. Exhale, refine your waistline. Maybe the hips lift up just a little bit if they settle down, and then opposite heel or leg floats tabletop. As you exhale, stretch that leg forward about 45 degrees. Feel the waistline still drawing in. No change to the spine. Inhale to bend in. And exhale to stretch out. And if you kind of peel back to the beginning of class when we were doing those hip rotations, as that leg is reaching, you don't want to feel any drop or rotation through the hips. So a lot of that support is coming through the right glute. Nice. Keep some weight through the first and second ball of the foot on that standing leg. Last two, front of the rib line, pretty heavy. Last one. Next time you bend in, foot to the floor, hips stay lifted, take a breath. As you exhale, take the arms to the sky and slowly roll the hips to the floor. And there's no rush here, just coming down slowly. Good. Eventually, left leg all the way to the ground, foot flexed, heel digging down slightly into the ground. Now your right foot can stay on the ground, knee bent, or right leg tabletop. Good. Hands together behind the head, elbows in your peripheral vision. Make sure the rib line is pretty heavy, pelvis is neutral still. As you exhale, curl up through center, pause. Keep an eye on your right knee. And as you exhale, just take your left shoulder blade and lift it up 2 to 3 inches. Pause so you feel that line from rib to hip, and then lower the shoulder blade back down. Same side, exhale, small twist, inhale back. Now, if you want to try something a little different, take your right hand, wrap it around the underside of your left armpit. And again, as you exhale, left shoulder blade lifts a couple inches. Shoulders are soft. Inhale back down. But just notice if it helps keep that right shoulder blade off the ground as you're twisting. Inhaling to center. And we're thinking right, left. External obliques helping to twist us to the right, right internal obliques. So both sides are working just a little bit differently, right? Couple more like this. Good. And then for Julia, feeling that left leg rotate in just a little bit. Yeah, nice. Continuing to right, root the left heel into the ground. Last one. And then come all the way down through center, hug the right leg into the body. And then hold here just for a moment. So as this right leg hugs in, right, the hip is definitely flexed, but there's a sense of reaching down through the sit bone. Open the right arm, inhale, pull that leg across the body. Just gentle twist. A decent amount of weight in that right shoulder. Curling the tail under slightly, lengthening through the lower back and breathing into that right side. And as you exhale, come back through center. Right leg to the ground, foot flex. Dig that heel down. Right, and there's almost this thought of pulling it towards you slightly. So the back of the hamstrings are on. Left leg bent, foot on the floor or up tabletop. Hands together behind the head, lift up through center to start. And then once you're there, keep that right leg rooting downward. Look at the left knee and then exhale, right shoulder blade lifts maybe like 2 inches. Inhale back to center. And exhale, small twist. So rib line pulling down to the opposite hip. And again, you might take your left arm under the right armpit, feel the ribs drawing in. Might also help widen that left shoulder blade a little bit. But again, all just options, right? Inhaling through center. Exhaling to twist. And your inhale on this is just as important as your exhale. So that inhale is going to breathe some space into your middle back. Last 2. And last one. And lower all the way down. Hug that left leg in. Relax the feet as that leg comes in towards the body. Flexing through the hip, but not gripping through the head. And as you inhale, pull that leg across. Open the left arm, palm faces up. And just breathe into that side. So you might feel this all the way from your shoulder through your armpit, down the side of your back into your hips. Just feel some ease in the shoulder blade. Imagine that left collarbone could open up a little bit more. And as you exhale, keeping the knee close to the body, roll yourself back to center. Hug both knees in, right? Both knees hug in. Grab the back of your thighs. And as you exhale, right, without too much momentum, nod your chin, push your legs into your hands to roll yourself up to seated. Now, if you have a prop, right, you can grab the prop, place it in between the knees. Okie dokie. So this next one, you can have your legs bent. At any point, you could always straighten your legs out as well, right? So just keep that in mind. Hands are going to be together behind the back of the thighs, and we'll just sit tall, right? And not so tall that you feel really rigid, but just a sense of length. Shoulders are easy, a little bit of a squeeze into that ball. And then curl your tailbone, let your pelvis start to roll backwards. And then let your spine, your lower spine follow. And you're just gonna roll back till your arms are almost straight, but you have a good amount of support here, right? On your next breath out, give that ball a squeeze, draw the waistline in, round forward, and then restack sit tall. Now, if your arches start to flip out a little like mine are today, you can always flex your feet, curl the tail, roll back, and then your feet can always relax down again whenever they calm down. A little bit of a squeeze, feel the lower abs draw in. Again, exhale, round forward, restack. Adding on, arms can go forward. Again, a little bit of a squeeze, easy in the shoulders. Curl the pelvis first, so let your pelvis lead the motion. And you're gonna go back to about that same spot, hold. Feel really easy in the shoulders and the collarbones. Stay here. On your next breath out, give that ball a little squeeze. Feel your waistline draw in. Inhale, breathe the ribs open, right? Try not to overly breathe into the front of the stomach. And again, exhale, thighs squeeze in, low abs, right? Obliques, all the abs, really. Inhale, breathe it open, right? Exhale, squeeze. Inhale, easy in the shoulders. Last one. Exhale, squeeze, roll forward from the pelvis, from the spine. Restack sit tall. One more time, we curl, roll back. So your hips are lengthening. They're still working as they lengthen and roll the pelvis back. Find your edge, easy in the shoulders. This time on your next breath out, give that ball a little squeeze. Right hand to your chest or behind the head, right? And start shaking as soon as the hand goes back there. Inhale the arm forward. Little squeeze, exhale, left hand to the chest or behind the head, your choice. Inhale forward. Big exhale. Shaky, shaky. Inhale forward. Again, make sure this is coming from your stomach. It's not overly gripping the back. That prop in between your thighs will help offload the hips a bit. Everybody feeling this? Okay. I am shaking like crazy. I feel it too. Stay easy in the shoulders. Keep your breath nice and big. Last one to the left. And then both arms forward. Take a big inhale. Exhale, round forward. Ooh, yeah. Restack sit tall. Nicely done. Take your prop off to the side if you had one. All right. Grab your band if you're using it. So you want to keep this thing pretty wide if you're using one of these mini bands. So try not to let it really bunch up as you're bringing it up and over the legs. All right, and if it can come up and over the knees, awesome. If you're using a long TheraBand, make sure your knees are together as you tie it, right? You can tie it fairly tight because when you come down, it will essentially, it always loosens up. All right, so bands on, we're gonna come onto our side. All right, facing, just make sure you see me, any side you want, right? And nothing new here, we've been doing this a lot lately. You can have your ball or prop close by if you want to use it as a pillow, or later on we might use it to make our glute work a little harder. So again, just make sure it's within reach. Your bottom arm can be long or bent. If it's long, palm turned up, knees bent forward, heels in line with the sit bones, top hand to the top hip. And then allow this hip to hike up a little bit. And then as you exhale, lengthen it down. So there's some length at both ends of the waist. Top knee lifts, hold. So you're now in some tension in the band. Flex your top foot, turn the toes to the sky and push your top heel down. And as that heel pushes downward, just notice if you feel more work coming from the back side of the pelvis and the glute. As you inhale, lower the knees slowly, try not to lose your tension. So whatever style band you're using here or at home, try not to lose that tension. A little bit of waistline and then exhale, lift. As you lift, think of pushing that heel down. And then again, control it. So there's three things happening. There's the up movement, the pause, and the control down. And in all three of these, the glutes are working. Waistline gently in, shoulders just easy. Yeah. And if you tend to be someone whose posture tends to be a little bit more arched or rib popped, have a sense of the ribs softening in. If you tend to be someone that maybe is a little more rounded, have a sense of the chest opening slightly. So your neutral is really relative to your body, right? Not your neighbors, not mine. So find that best alignment for your body and just notice if that kicks into those glutes a little bit more, right? Good. If you don't feel this, let me know. And if at some point you're like, I'm done with this band, right? Ditch it. It's all good. And as always, when you're working with these bands, especially if you have like a black one, the little mini black ones are dark gray. If you can't lift your knee or thigh up more than an inch, ditch the band, right? You want the range of motion. Yeah, last one. And then lower down, rest for a second, and then allow your top thigh, knee, and foot to lift. So you're about hip height. And I'm going to push backwards a little bit into the band. So the front of the hip opens slightly. The knee is still bent to about 90 degrees. And then the foot's just fairly relaxed, the top foot. As I exhale, I'm going to rotate my thigh in. So the foot is going to the sky. And then inhale, I come back to center. So internal rotation. Exhale, rotating. Inhaling back through center. Yeah. Right. And just check in that as you rotate, the hip isn't hiking. The leg isn't coming too far forward. There's still a sense of reaching backwards a little bit into the band to help the front of the hip open. And this should go pretty deep into the side of the glutes. I know we've all done this quite a bit in these classes, right? And those of you at home, if you're newer to this, it can be a little bit intense at first. So, breaks early is okay. And you might even notice your bottom glutes are working a bit to stabilize. Last one. And then lower everything down and just rub out the side of that hip a little bit. Nice. And then both hands behind the head, just a short set on that because we have some different glute stuff coming up here shortly. So both hands behind the head, the top elbow can lift. And then the head and the ribs will start to rotate back. And the hips will stay fairly stacked, right? If it feels nice to let them move a little bit, that's fine. Just make sure the intention is the upper and the middle spine is finding this rotation. Holding and breathing. Right? Just breathing into the back of the ribs. As you exhale, feel your waistline bringing you back towards center. Right? And then again, on a breath, your time, your pace, start to rotate back. You want to make sure, again, this isn't just overly shearing through the lower back, but you're trying to find some movement in the upper spine. So this is one that less might be more at first. Good. Yeah, just one more. And the next time you rotate back, again, just hold there for a breath or two. And have the thought of the tail curling under slightly. So it's going to help keep the lower back from overly extending, and you might feel a little more movement in the upper back. Yep. And then on your next breath, bring yourself back to center. Nice. And then we'll flip sides, still facing me. So again, we're going to do quite a bit more with these bands today. So just a quick set on our side. So knees bent forward, so make sure you're facing the same direction or you're on your opposite side. Heels are in line with the back of the sit bones. Top hand to the top hip. Let that hip hike up for a moment. And then on an exhale, let it reach down. So find a bit of length. Top knee lifts. Top foot flexes, toes to the sky. Push your heel down. So really feel that energy of your top foot pushing down into your bottom foot. Lower the knee slowly. Don't lose the tension. And then as you exhale, set your stomach. Feel thigh lifting from where the leg meets the pelvis. There's that moment of pause and then control it down. Inevitably, one side will always feel a little different than the other. Good. Inhaling down. Yep. Exhaling up. And top hand can stay at your hip as a reminder to keep the pelvis pretty still. You can always rest by your side at any point. Yeah. Just feel that pivot as the knee goes up, the thighs dropping and pivoting in that joint. Couple more. Yeah. Good. And last one. We'll lower down, rest just for a second, and that top thigh, knee, and foot lift. The foot's pretty relaxed. Knee stays 90 degrees. We push back slightly into the tension of the band. And as we exhale, we rotate the thigh in and then return to where you started, return to center. And again, rotating in, return to center. So working into the side of the hip, finding those internal rotators. You might notice you have quite a bit of range of motion in this. You might notice you don't have quite as much, right? We're all set up pretty differently. You might notice one side fatigues way quicker than the other. Good. Is everyone feeling this? Okay. Lovely. Last two. And last one. Bring everything down through center. You can rub out the side of that hip a little bit. And then both hands together behind the head. Let the head be pretty heavy. Top elbow lifts. And then the head, the neck, and the upper ribs, upper back start to rotate back. Keep a sense of that low waistline still lifting for support. And once you come back, hold for a breath or so. And then from your core, bring it back to center. Yeah. And just a couple more like this, your own time, your own pace. And the hips might move a little bit with this. For the most part, they're pretty still, they're pretty stacked. But again, see how it feels in your body. That last time that you come back, stay for an extra breath or so, really thinking of that expansion into the side of the ribs, the back of the ribs. Right? Find that rotation and extension. And then exhale back to center. Nice. And then keeping the band, we're going to come on to hands and knees to start. All right. Ball can come off to the side if we were using it. And then we're going to come down onto the forearms. Now, the peel back on this is you can always come up onto your hands at any point, right? It'll take some load off your shoulders and neck. You can measure out your elbow distance by grabbing onto your upper biceps. So that'll usually a pretty good place to start. And then hands can come together or they can separate for more intensity into the back of the shoulders. Now press down through your forearms, hug the inner elbows in. Left leg stays rooted. It's about under the hip. The right leg is going to reach back and up, and we're just going to pause. So again, at any point, if you're like, I'm done with this band, you can always ditch it, right? We know this series is a lot of work on its own. So shoulders still down, waistline in, right? And as you inhale, bend that back leg in. And then exhale, slowly press back and up. And I'm thinking of lifting from the center line of my back glute and hamstrings. But also, now that we have a band pulling on our left leg, those outer left hip muscles are working to stabilize. Left knee, left shin rooting to the ground. Head pretty relaxed, right? It's just following the angle of the upper spine. Good. Inhaling in, exhaling out. And the nice thing about being on the forearms is it really kind of blocks the lower back from doing too much movement, which in turn is going to help open your hips more. It's going to help work the back of the glutes more. Yeah. And then Heather, just feel the hip shift to the right just a little. Yeah, there you go. You feel more of those left glutes now? Yeah. Last one. Next time you reach back and up, hold. Low tummy in, shoulders down. Now we're going to take that leg, keep it straight. It's going to cross the midline of the body slightly and drop down. So think big toe to the opposite side of your mat, across the body. We lift up and then drop the toe to the right, just to the opposite side of the mat. We lift, drop across, lift, drop across. And then you can play around that as you cross the midline of the body, think of turning out just slightly. And as you lift and cross away from the body or reach away from the body, think of rotating in slightly. The whole time, the pelvis is still pretty still, right? Minimal sway or shift into the hips. Both sides of the glutes, hamstrings starting to get involved here as well. One more to the outside. And then find your center, leg just neutral, not overly rotated in or out. Keep the lower waistline in. Can that leg lift a little higher from the center line of the glutes and the back of the hamstrings? Relax the shoulders down, push down into your arms. Take one more breath. And then lower that leg down. Press up onto the hands, round your spine like a cat, just for a breath. Let your shoulder blades widen. Maybe even just rock the hips a little bit from side to side, bringing the pelvis to neutral and bringing the spine to neutral. And as your hips sway a little bit from side to side, as we sway into that left hip, you might get a little bit of a stretch into those outer hip muscles that we're working. Find your center, come back onto the forearms, right? Elbows under shoulders, root down, hug inner elbows in, and even think of the elbows pulling towards your knees. Right leg stays rooted, left leg lifts up and back and hold. Waistline in. When you're ready, bend that back leg down and in. Exhale, reach back and up. Down and in. And back and up. Again, down and in. Back and up. Coming onto the hands is going to offload the neck and shoulders. But keep in mind, it will destabilize your lower back a little bit more. So you have to think of those ribs lifting and belly lifting if you're coming up to this position. Good. Yeah, and then you the hips to the, yeah, there you go. Nice. You got it. Couple more like this. And the next time you reach back, let's hold that. Recheck the ribs, the shoulders, and then just start to cross that leg over the midline of the body, tap down towards the edge of your mat, lift, and then just start to reach out a little bit away from your body. And then you can play around as you cross the midline, turning out slightly as you cross away, turning in slightly. So starting to work through the inner thighs, as well as the back of the hamstrings and glutes. Keep lifting through the core, keep widening through your shoulders. Couple more like this. One more each side. Ending to the outside. Find your center, hold your center. Re-lift up through those lower ribs, lower waistline from the center line of the glute. Can that leg maybe lift a little bit higher? And then lower down, press up onto the hands and knees. Nice job. Round the spine like a cat. Widen through the shoulders. Relax the glutes now. Open the chest. Lift the tailbone, come into a little bit of extension. And then find your center, right? We're gonna come up to the top edge of the mat, fingers spread wide. So upper back and shoulder blades are wide here as well. And then we can tuck the toes under, lift the waistline, and then the knees can just hover up and hold. And my legs are still in the tension of the band. So again, if you want to get rid of this band at any point, totally okay. Keep the back line pretty neutral. Inner elbow slightly rolling forward. Biceps on so the arms aren't locked, and then lower those knees back down. One more like this. Set the shoulders, lift the waistline, hover the knees, pause. Now, if you look at your feet, check that they're not overly rolled out, but you're getting some extension into your first toes, some movement across the arches of the feet. And then maybe just kind of tiptoe your legs back into full plank, keeping the tension in the band. So outer hips are still working. We're holding for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. You can walk the legs back in.
Settle the knees down and push back into child's pose. Nice. Hold and breathe into this. Big inhale, big exhale. And then rise back up into your hands and knees position. One more time here. Toes are tucked, shoulder blades wide, waistline lifted. You're starting with some tension in the band. We lift the knees, hover, right? And again, you can just kind of walk your feet back into plank. Maybe take the feet a little wider, so about mat distance. And there's a sense of the heart pulling a little forward, and a sense of the tail drawing a little bit back. Waistline still up and in, arms strong, feet rooting down. Again, if you look back, they're not overly rolled out or rolled in. You're not just on your toes. You're not just hanging into the back of your Achilles tendon. Somewhere at the center of the ankle. Holding for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Walk back in. Settle the knees, and again, push back, resting pose, child's pose. Maybe the arms can be behind you at this point. Palms turn up to offload the wrists. And then roll yourself up and take that band away. We're done with that thing. Bye, band. All right. Feel that tomorrow. All right, that sucker's gone. So we're gonna come down onto our bellies. So have your ball close by. If you're at home and have a roller and you don't have a ball, that would work as well. So again, just keep this sucker close by. And then the elbows are somewhere bent off to the side of the body. And the feet are a little bit wider than the hips. Parallel or turned out. And just feel some ease in the rib cage and the pelvis. And if it feels comfortable, even allow your forehead to come onto the ground. And as you breathe in, again, instead of breathing your stomach down into the ground, think of breathing wide into the side of the ribs and into the back of the ribs. On your next breath out, feel your pubic bone anchor, your low tummy lifts. And as you inhale, float the head, the shoulders, and the chest just a little bit off the ground. So my arms are pretty heavy, my elbows are heavy. And as I come up, I want to see how high can I get without my arms doing too much work. Right, so I'm using my upper and middle back extensors, waistline still in. And then my next breath, I'm just lowering down. So at the bottom, let the shoulders relax a little. Set your glutes, so pubic bone heavy, a little bit of glute in the background. Inhale, start to peel up your head, shoulder blades start to drop down and in slightly. And again, right, I'm not really using my arms too much. I'm thinking of upper back extensors, middle back extensors, helping to extend my spine. And then taking it back down. All right? Now, other ways to play around with this, you can take your arms behind you, palms face in, fingers point towards the feet. As we inhale, we start to lift the head. Again, the shoulders react. The spine starts to lift, upper spine, middle spine, waistline still in. Maybe the hands lift at the top. Holding and breathing. Just find some length in the neck, right? The eyes are looking a bit forward, but, not overly in one direction or the other. On your next breath, take it down. And one more time, set the stomach, the glutes, peel up. Maybe at the top as the arms lift, the legs float up. So there's this sense of the front of the hips opening, the front of the chest and the shoulders opening as the whole back line of the body gets to turn on. Now you can continue what we were just doing or stay lifted. On your next breath out, arms open to a T, palms face down, shoulders roll back. And as you inhale, reach the arms back towards the feet, palms will face in. Good. So on an exhale, waistline lifts, arms open to a T, palms face down, shoulders roll out of the ears. Inhale to pull back. And I want you to imagine you're in water or like really thick mud. So there's some resistance in the air. Okay. Upper back, mid back, glutes, hamstrings, everything's still working. We're really starting to focus on that rotation of the shoulder. So the back of the shoulders and the back of the shoulder blades get to do a little bit more work. Last one. Next time you reach back, that's your last time. Exhale, lower it all down. Hands under the forehead, bend the knees, windshield wiper the feet from side to side, allowing your legs, your hips, and your pelvis to move. Come back to center, and this is where if you have a ball or a roller, you can play around with this on this next one. So I'm gonna bring my ball in front of me, just make sure the pokey knob isn't on your forearms or your hands. And my center of my forearm is gonna come to the ball. My hands are kind of in a prayer position. I'm gonna lower my nose towards the ground, and my shoulders are a little bit lifted into my ears. So there's some stretch under the armpit. Pubic bone heavy. As I exhale, I'm just gonna glide my shoulders down. And then as I inhale, I'm gonna think of pushing into my forearms and peeling the head and the chest up. And you can come to the base of the ribs on this one, or you can continue, right? The triceps and the arms will definitely get involved as we come into full back extension. So your choice. And then on a breath, just slowly start to bring it down. And it's the same articulation we've been working on all class, right? The whole hour. So you reach out, find that stretch, let your shoulders lift, settle them down as you exhale, as you inhale, peel up. And you might have to adjust the arms, right? And this could be done with a foam roller or just with your hands on the ground. Yeah. And just make sure if you're coming into this full back extension, that your shoulders are staying pretty heavy. And that the arc in your back, it's not just contained to just two vertebrae, but it's really lengthened out from your lower back all the way up through your upper spine and your neck. Just one beautiful curve. Yep. Waistline still lifting. You might feel a little bit of a stretch in the abs as you come up. Last one. And the next time you come up to wherever you're coming up to today, pause. Take a full breath in through the nose, allow the front of the chest to open. As you exhale, feel that little bit of zip up through the waistline. And on your next breath, lower it all down. Nice. Hands under the forehead again, props off to the side, bend the knees. Windshield wiper the feet from side to side. And then back to center, prop yourself up onto hands and knees. We're at the top edge of the mat. And coming into pigeon, you also have the option for figure four. Right knee can come towards the right hand. Right foot kicks open to the opposite side of the mat, and we send that left leg back. Right, and if this doesn't feel good in the knees, hips, ankles, figure four on your back, right ankle over left thigh is fine. Now, once you're here, just allow the hips to rock a little bit from side to side. Right? Find the place that feels centered. You'll probably feel a little more stretch there. And then maybe you stay up here on your hands, or you can come onto your forearms. You can lay your head down on your hands, right? Whatever feels comfortable. Or maybe not super comfortable, but where you feel a stretch, right? And then think of your right sitting bone very gently trying to pull back behind you. And see if that deepens the stretch. And then just relax any effort. Let your bones be heavy for a moment. Yep. And then you can switch to the other side. You can come through a down dog if you want, or just simply switch. And then once you make it to your other side, again, just swaying a little bit from side to side. Right, so find a place where you feel centered, you feel that stretch deep into the side of the hip, so into where we were working the glutes. And then maybe settling down. Right? And then feeling left sit bone reaching back and right hip bone reaching a little forward. Heavy in the head. And deepen your breath. Good. And then coming back, then we can all press through down dog, tucking the toes, set the shoulders, and just pedal at the feet a couple times. Opening up the back of the calves and hamstrings. And eventually walking the feet and hands together
Hang it out for a moment. And let your body be heavy. Heavy head, heavy arms. And if this hanging traction ever doesn't feel particularly good in your lower back, you can always come up to halfway lift. Wherever you're at, take a big inhale. Exhale, get a little heavier. One more like that, big inhale. And exhale, get a little heavier. And then relaxing the arms to the ground, relax the jaw. On your next breath, start to roll up, bend the knees a little more, root into those feet. Allow your head to come up last. And we'll end you there today. Nicely done. If you have any questions, let me know.